So recently I filmed this weekly online prayer gathering video called Feast at Home. You may have heard of it. Join us every Saturday night if you want to be inspired. But here's the thing, when I filmed that video, I encountered a huge problem. Suddenly, I went blank. I forgot what I was supposed to say. And it went on for a few seconds. And it was such an embarrassing moment because the camera kept on rolling and I was, what should I say? What should I say? But you know what? Eventually, I did overcome that moment of forgetfulness. And nowadays, it's actually so easy to just cut it out in the video editing, part of the preparation of the video. So it's so easy. But I actually remember a time before the pandemic when we would have our live prayer gatherings and I would be talking in front of hundreds of people, thousands of people, and then suddenly I would forget what I was going to say. What are they going to do again? I would just suddenly forget, and those moments of forgetfulness, I would be just, I feel that I was gonna die 1,000 deaths because of the embarrassment. Oh my goodness, I forgot what I was gonna say. But you know what? I have developed actually ways to overcome those mental challenges because of my experience in serving in ministry. So if you've ever experienced this before, then you're in luck. You're actually blessed because in this video, you will learn how to overcome mental blocks. Let's begin. So what is a mental block? Simply put, a mental block is an inability to recall some specific thing or perform some mental action. And really, it's such a difficult moment when you forget what you were supposed to say, what you're supposed to do when you are public speaking, when you are preaching, when you're leading worship. And I find in my own experience that this actually happens because of anxiety, right? Where when you're so focused on the people, they're just looking at you, what you're doing, and they're listening to every word that you're saying, and you may be feeling, what's happening here? They're all looking at me, and it makes you feel anxious, and suddenly you forget. Or it could also be about, being self-conscious. You're just so focused on what you're saying. What am I saying? Am I saying the right things? Or what am I doing with my hands? You don't know what you're doing with your hands. And it again makes you anxious. And anxiety can really trigger mental blocks. But I actually figured out 3 ways to overcome the mental blocks. The first way is to master the main points. Friend, when it comes to speeches and presentations, when you make these speeches, when you write them down, there are actually 3 or a few central ideas to these speeches, okay? And when you create these talks, these presentations, you will find that these big messages are actually the central points where all the other details would gravitate to. So when you start writing your talk, you would actually start with these main points. When you start with these main points, you will just keep on adding and adding and adding. So these main points are your lampposts, okay? So if you memorize your lampposts, when you memorize them by heart, when you understand them fully, when you master the main points, the big messages, you will never ever forget the flow, okay? You will never ever forget. And if the worst thing happens, you do forget your talk, you can actually just refer to your cheat sheet, or you will just look at the teleprompter and you will find that the main message or the big messages, and then your memory will just come rushing in and you will remember your talk. This actually happened to me years ago when I was preaching, and I was preaching back to back with another preacher, and I was the second preacher, and suddenly I heard a terrible news. The one preaching before me was gonna be late. He couldn't make it in time. So the other servants, they were looking at me and they were like, you bro, you do it. As if it was so easy to make up a talk. It was so scary. I was so tempted to say no. But you know what? A lot of people went to that gathering. Hundreds to thousands of people were waiting on us, and I couldn't say no. I was the only one who could do it. So actually, I had an idea what the first preacher was gonna say, at least a vague idea. I knew his big message, and I could just fill in my own thoughts on that big message, so I could just start my own talk. And even if I do not know the details, I at least know, and I have at least mastered a bit on that big message. You see, friend, when you know the main point, when you know the big message, you can actually pull it off. You can actually give the presentation. You can actually give a talk. And thankfully, the Lord blessed me. He was guiding me through that experience. And you know what? The rest is history. And you know, friend, if you feel that this is such a difficult situation, you don't want to be in that situation, I agree with you. But if I could do it, I know that you could too. The second way to overcome mental blocks is to move in to your memory palace. What's a memory palace? It is a palace in your mind. Yes, in your imagination. It could be a palace, it could be a mansion, it could be a castle, it could be a condo, whatever it is in your mind. And in that palace of yours, it is where you store your memories, your information that really is needed in your talk, in your performance, in your presentation. So how do you use your memory palace? Friend, you just imagine, okay? You imagine a palace. This is your palace in your mind, and you imagine the gate. You imagine the long drive all the way to your huge door. You open that door. You imagine going through the kitchen, the dining area. You imagine going through the bedrooms, and you go to your library. Okay, you go to your library, and you imagine yourself going into that library and just going to the first shelf, and go to the left topmost corner of that shelf. Okay, and then you put the information, the big messages, the main points of your presentation. So you actually are storing the information, storing what you know about your talk in that upper leftmost corner of that first shelf inside the library in your memory palace. You see what I'm doing there? I'm using your spatial intelligence to form concrete memories. So that's how you prep work your memory palace. So when you're giving your presentation, okay, you're giving your presentation, you're doing so well, and then suddenly you forget. you have a senior moment. What am I doing here? And you don't know what to say or do. So what do? You don't panic. You just take a deep breath, and then you look at the distance as if there was something very interesting over there. You just look at the distance, and then you scratch your chin. And if you have a beard, it's gonna look cool in front of the audience. And while you're doing this, you're actually racing in your mind. You're racing in your mind so fast. You're running through the gate. You're running through the doorway. You're running through the kitchen, the dining area, the bedroom. You're running inside the library. You go to the first shelf and get to that part of the left topmost corner of the first shelf, and you take out the books containing the main messages of your talk, of your presentation, your performance, and then you read it quickly. And this actually happens in just a millisecond, in just a moment in your mind. And in real time, you're actually just staring at the distance, just scratching your chin, and then you look at the audience as if nothing happened. You just keep on talking, you just keep on with your performance, with your presentation, as if you didn't forget anything at all, because you have stored everything in your memory palace. Now, Why is this very effective? I didn't just make this up. This technique, the memory palace technique, has been around for over 2,000 years, my friend. 2,000 years. Ancient scholars, speakers, orators have been using this technique, and it's very, very effective. Use it, friend, for your next presentation, for your next performance. The third way to overcome mental blocks is to practice, practice, and more practice. Friend, you can't just skip a step. When it comes to preparation, you have to practice. From novices to masters, they all have to practice. Everyone has to practice, especially when you are preparing for something big. And presentations are big, speeches, performances are big. So you have to prepare. And I know it's kind of difficult to practice. You may feel lazy. You don't want to do it. You feel that your room or maybe your office is not a great place to practice. You have 1,000 or 1,000,000 reasons not to. Temptation really to not practice at all. But you don't skip a step. You have to practice. Even if you're really good, no, that's not a good excuse. That's terrible. It's a terrible thing to not practice at all. When I just started speaking in public, and when I was a lead worshiper, leading praise and worship, I would give 2-minute exhortations. And you know what? I am not really a public speaker. I'm not trained to speak in front of people, but I did it. I practiced so hard. I would practice my 2-minute exhortations for 100 times. Yes, my friend, 100 times. That 2 minutes times 100, that's 200 minutes. That's over 3 hours if my math is correct. Really, I did that, and you know what? I became more spontaneous with the way I delivered that exhortation, those encouragements for people to really praise and worship the Lord, and because of that, I would never forget my exhortations. And really, flash forward to now, present day, I would memorize, I would master my talks. Really, just by giving 2 to 3 times of practice for my 10 to 30 minute talks. So it's easier for me now, because my friend, if you actually practice all the time, your mind actually builds muscle. You get better at it. You get better at memorizing and mastering the difficult concepts, the ideas in your presentation. So keep on practicing. And you know what? Practicing is actually a way for you to love your audience. Okay, you want to give the best, an excellent presentation, so you practice as much as you can. So they will see really an excellent output from you. And not only that, you're actually also loving yourself. When you love yourself, you don't want to make those tiny mistakes that would cause you to regret. So you practice as best as you can, so that you will give the best that you can. And finally, you are actually loving God. When you practice, when you do well, when you use what you have been given by the Lord, those God-given gifts, you are actually praising the Lord with your talent. So keep on practicing. Give the best that you can. So those are the ways for us to really overcome mental blocks. If you have your own ideas to do so, then please comment in the comment section. Let's share some ideas. And if you were blessed by this video, please do give us a thumbs up, or even subscribe to our channel. Click that notification bell, and really it actually helps us out. Thank you for joining us. I'm Noli. See you on the next one.